What's up, Sauce Nation? It's your boy Hector Flores coming at you with a video about the Astros, and it's going to be a little bit different. Usually when we do these top 5 lists, we usually do things in a more positive spin on them, but this is going to be a little different because this list is about 5 Astros players, or 5 players that were part of the Astros that you may want to forget. And so it's going to be a little bit different. So make sure you guys go into that comment section. Tell me what you guys think about this list. If there's a player that I don't mention, maybe you guys drop in the comments. Tell me if that's the guy that you believe deserves to be on this list. And I'm gonna keep it more recent. I'm not gonna try to be like all the way back. But yeah. So if you guys like content like this, obviously of all the teams here in Houston, make sure you guys subscribe to Sauce Sports so you guys can get that content. And if you haven't, and click on that notification bell so you'll be notified when we drop videos just like this. And of course, when we do our live streams throughout the week around 6 p.m. Central Time. So without further ado, man, let's get going with this video. But before we do, because this is a very depressing list, let's get going. Alright, to start things off in my list, I'm going to start with John Singleton at number 5. That is correct. John Singleton, in his time with the Astros, he had a batting average of 171 with 14 home runs. John Singleton honestly had a lot of promise, man. The fact that the Astros committed with him with a big contract also adds to more why I put him on this list. But the problem was, and to quote off of Stephen A. Smith, he just couldn't lay off the weed. Now, personally, I could care less, man. Weed is not necessarily the worst thing to do when it comes to baseball. If you guys know, baseball is very corrupt and has a lot of issues. But I think weed is probably like the lesser of the evils, if you get what I mean. But unfortunately, John Singleton just wasn't able to perform with the Astros, and is going down one of those guys that just couldn't live up to the expectations of the MLB, and just the fact that he could perform well in AAA but just couldn't perform in the MLB is kind of one of the reasons. So that's why I have John Singleton on my list. So at number 4, I have JD Martinez. JD Martinez, most of you guys may not know that he was in the Astros, obviously, but he had a career, well, with the Astros, he had a batting average of 260 and had 24 home runs. JD Martinez may be the all-star that he is now, but at a time, some people weren't even sure if JD Martinez would even be that good because he had a really terrible swing. And that was the big issue with the Astros, and that was the reason why they decided to release him. And when they released him, he went to Detroit, and next thing you know, he started working on his swing and now became the stud that he is today. So, like I said, man, well, actually, I never mentioned this, but some of the guys on this list isn't going to be because they were terrible. It's probably because they ended up being better than what you expect them to be. So that's the reason why I have JD Martinez at number 4. So at number 3, I have Carlos Gomez. Carlos Gomez, man, he was the main centerpiece to a trade that the Astros made back in 2015 that looked like he was going to revamp this Astros team. The fact that this guy was a pretty good outfielder, his ability to hit the ball, his ability to be fast, and all those things really made it to be like this was going to be the trade of the century. Unfortunately, his time with the Astros, he had 220 batting average and had 9 home runs. I don't think the 220 batting average is very terrible, but obviously some people can make an argument that it's not the best batting average. But it also didn't help the fact that Astros fans were actually willing to create a GoFundMe account to get this contract off of the Astros. And it's because of that and the fact that the constant booing that eventually this guy ended up leaving and going to the Texas Rangers. And honestly, I haven't seen him in the MLB since. But yeah, so number 3, I have Carlos Gomez. Alright, man. At number 2, I have the other player that was part of that Carlos Gomez trade, Mike Fiers. So, Mike Fiers, I'm going to say this before I go into Mike Fiers. I actually didn't mind Mike Fiers as a pitcher. I thought he was actually pretty decent. I think he did what he could do, and at one point was our ace for the Astros, with an ERA with us at the time at a 4.34, and had a total of 339 strikeouts with the Astros. I don't know if that's entirely true or not, but that's what it gave me on Baseball Reference. I mean, they're pretty accurate on their shit. But anyways, so that Mike Fiers, obviously, if you know about the Astros cheating scandal, this was kind of the whistleblower for the whole thing. Decided to put it out there on that article with Ken Rosendahl and even Drellish to go ahead and tell everybody what the Astros did. But that's also not only that, but the Astros have to deal with the fact that this guy provided the first ever no-hitter in Minute Maid Park history. So this guy is part of the Astros history. He is part of that 2017 Houston Astros World Series team, whether you want to throw an asterisk on it or not. But he's part of that team, and he's also the snitch for it all. So that's kind of one of those reasons why I have him number 2, because I think, aside from the fact for what he did, which is the fact that he snitched on the Astros, he is a big part of the Houston Astros history, and I think that a lot because of that, it's a player that you may want to forget were with the Houston Astros. So at number 1, I have Mark Appel. Now, many people probably don't know who Mark Appel is, and to be honest, I can understand why, because this guy never played a game in the MLB. This is kind of where I decided to tell y'all that some of these guys may or may not have played for the Astros, but this was part of the Astros system, and Mark Appel was one of them. This was the number 1 pick in the 2013 MLB draft. This was the guy that the Astros believed would have been a future ace, a future stud, and he never played a single game in the MLB. And to kind of throw salt on the wound, this guy was picked over Chris Bryant. It's crazy to believe that, for those who know baseball, obviously Chris Bryant is a star third baseman for the Chicago Cubs, obviously an all-star and all that. That's who the Astros picked over that guy. And I'll throw some other guys that got drafted as well in the first round. Some of those are Austin Meadows. Can you imagine an outfield with Austin Meadows? John Gray is another pitcher, probably not the most stellar of all pitchers, but still pretty solid. Obviously made it to the MLB, unlike Mark Appel. And I will even throw this, Aaron Judge. And I know many people may feel a little indifferent about Aaron Judge, but he was part of that draft class in that first round. Technically, he was a compensatory pick, but still, you were talking about some pretty solid players coming in that draft, and the Astros picked Mark Appel, who didn't even show up to the MLB. So obviously, this kind of deserves to be the number 1 in this list, because of the fact that we had high, obviously if you pick him number 1 overall in the whole draft, to have high expectations and to never play a single MLB game is pretty huge. So that is the reason why it's number 1. So if you're not new with the sauce, man, of course you guys know that we have a bonus whenever we do videos that include a 5 of something. And for this one, if you guys know me very well, you guys know who's probably going to be on this list, but because obviously this is a personal list, and that's going to be Hunter Pence. And the reason why I say that is just because I knew that Hunter Pence would be a solid player. I thought that he was going to be great, and unfortunately he had to kind of be one of the casualties of this rebuild for the Astros. And I mean, you can't say that it was for naught, because obviously the Astros won a World Series in 2017, whether you want to throw an asterisk on it or not. It led to something, man. So I mean, Hunter Pence, it still kind of hurts me to this day. I would love to see him retire an Astro, but I think he will retire a Giant after this season. But you know what? That's my bonus. That's why I didn't add him in the top 5. I knew that he would probably not, many of you would not agree to put him on the list, but that's why I put him on the bonus, just personally for me. So that's why I put Hunter Pence on this list. So those are 5, well technically 6, players from the Houston Astros or Astros organization that you may want to forget. If you guys agree with me, go ahead and drop in the comments. If there's a player that you guys think that should be on this list, also drop in the comments. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you subscribe to Sauce Sports so you guys can get content on all the teams of Houston, all sports, only Houston. So you guys keep getting that content. If you guys want a little bit more of interaction with guys like me or Ed Honcho or the guys from the Roundtable, make sure you guys join the Patreon. Sign for that $5 tier. You'll get put on our Discord where you talk to all Discord members as well as guys from the Roundtable. And I guarantee you, man, the conversations are great. It gets a little heated, but it's well deserved. It's all love in the end, man. We're all fans of Houston. That's what was more important. But like I said, man, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. And that's all I got, man. Checking up a dude. Y'all stay saucy.
Perfect.